There you go.
Hey, you're on.
I gotta go home. Are you driving home today?
Not quite home, Albany area, so not too bad. Yeah.
Okay, at 6:30, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Oh my. Yeah.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order of business not on the agenda is wishing you all a Happy New Year. Welcome back. Next item is the consent agenda. Recommended action is approve the following items which are included in the consent agenda. 6A and 6B, which are the meeting minutes from December 17th and December 20th meetings. 8A, which is a donation acceptance, and 8B, the special education. May I have a motion, please?
Yes.
Thank you, Martha. Second, Colleen. All in favor? Please vote.
I would say 7 yes.
7-4-0 against, motion passes. Next up is the good of the cause. This is where we set aside time for the public participation in school-related matters. Prior to me reading all the rules and regulations here, policy, is anybody interested in speaking to the board? You wait your turn, right? Reports to the board, composter project and environmental club updates. We're happy to have with us Tammy Morgan and a large contingent of individuals who are involved with the composter project. They're here to update us on that project.
Yeah, this is an exciting opportunity to hear from the Environmental Club. You know, I know the board had mentioned the compost project, but the Environmental Club's involved in a number of different projects, and I imagine they'll bring some of those up today. So we're just so grateful to have all of our students, who I hope that we'll have a chance to have every student introduce themselves, and then Tammy Morgan and other faculty members who are here. And I hope you guys will get a chance to introduce yourselves too. And then we also have some parents who are here supporting the team also. So thank you all for being here. I think we're going to ask Tammy to get started.
Okay, sure. Hi. I'm going to have each of you stand up and kind of get in the order that you're going to be presenting. And as we go through, this is a small group of students who are doing an awful lot of work, and they're representing the entire environmental club, which meets every Thursday in my room, 10th period, and then they have a lot of other things that they're doing. If you guys want to come on up.
How many are there in the club?
It varies. I have my co-presidents here today, so Anya Morgan and Elise Pearson have been involved since they were, I don't know, were you in 8th grade when you started, or freshman, 9th grade? And then we have 8th graders who have recently gotten involved, thanks in large part due to the compost project. So they have a lot to talk to you about, and I don't want to waste any of their time. So I'm going to have them just real quickly go through their names, and then we'll get started. So.
Elise Pearson, Ellen Manson, Alyssa Hoffman, Emily Rothbeck, Emily Costa, Morgan Smith, Arnie Morgan, Astrid Livesey.
Okay, go ahead. I'll do this part.
Okay. Hi everyone. I just want to start by saying thank you for having a speaker tonight. I'm here with 7 other students to represent the LPHS Environmental Club and talk to you about how you can support us in 2020. We are excited to be a part of a LEED certified goals community, and we thank you for supporting the collaboration with Clarkson University in reaching that goal. Many of us collected data about our community that led to that certification. This year, we are committed to helping the village accomplish its Climate Smart Community goal of becoming certified. Climate Smart Communities, or CSC, is a New York State program that helps local governments take action to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and adapt to a changing climate. The program offers free technical assistance and grants to help communities reach their climate action goals. Lake Placid is currently registered as a CSC, but has not yet applied for certification. The difference being that registered communities have made a commitment to act by passing the CSC pledge. Certified communities, however, have gone beyond the CSC pledge by completing and documenting a suite of actions that mitigate and adapt to climate change at the local level. Some of us are members of the Village of Lake Placid's Climate Smart Communities Task Force and are helping the village to take necessary steps to become certified. Now I'm going to hand it over to Ellen to talk about the Youth Climate Strike.
Climate change education and engagement are principal elements of climate smart communities that we have been actively engaged in this year. Last May, we held our 6th annual Green Market on the Oval. This September, we attended and presented at the Youth Climate Strike, and then in November, we hosted a climate reality presentation at St. Bernard's Church. We have to thank our administrators for allowing us to go on strike this September, and the Village of Lake Placid for helping us coordinate Essex County bus transportation when our district couldn't due to lack of drivers that day. The rally brought out hundreds of attendees representing multiple generations where Elise and Astrid presented. I cannot express how empowering and encouraging this event was.
Watershed and natural resource assessment are also principal elements of the climate smart community, and I have taken the lead on this project for the village. Working with Paul Smith's Watershed Institution this year, we have been monitoring the health of Mirror Lake and learning more about the impact that road salt is having on this extremely important resource in our community. Each month, students have been collecting and comparing data going in and out of Mirror Lake. Our inlet is located here at the bottom of Echo Lake, and the outlet we are studying is located by the public beach.
Inlet, outlet.
Yeah. We have been measuring conductivity, which is a measure of the salt content, in both locations, and have found that the temperatures get colder, the conductivity goes down, as expected, because colder water is more dense and salt sinks to the bottom. This is also true for the outlet. It's important to note the huge difference in conductivity between the water going into the lake from the natural environment at the inlet and the water leaving the lake. Our initial data suggests that the lake is 3 times saltier than it should be. The logical culprit is the road salt. We also compare the organisms living in both environments. Note that higher biotic score indicates a lake that has been affected by pollution, and the outlet is significantly higher than the inlet. This suggests that the change in conductivity is having a negative impact on organisms living in Mirror Lake. We will be working with the Watershed Institute later this month to determine the best way to minimize these impacts, and will present a salt mitigation plan to the village board in April. We hope that you can also attend our APES presentations in June, where we will present our suggestions for the school.
Organic waste programs are also very important elements of a climate smart community, and we have made a lot of progress on our department this year. Here's our official logo and a picture of the first batch of compost produced by Placid Earth. Emily will be passing around a fresh batch around the room for you to see now. It all starts in the cafeteria, where students and staff dispose of their food scraps into a 5-gallon bucket. Because our composter gets so hot, we can compost lots of different types of food, including meat, bones, oil, peels, and pits. The special education students have been helping us transport all of the school's buckets to and from our new composter, located in the back of the Shipman Youth Center parking lot every day. Once a week, they dump the school's food waste into the blue bin pictured here, add wood pellets, and feed the composter, or Joel as we like to refer to him. The Environmental Club has a team of about 10 students that compost food and wash the empty buckets. A really gross but necessary job.
We've been processing food from our school, Northwood, Green Goddess, and a few families in the area, and have already composted about 5,000 pounds of food waste since opening our doors in September. The average temperature inside the drum is about 130 degrees Fahrenheit. Based on our data, the school produces about 600 pounds of food waste each month in the middle and high school building alone. The North Elba transfer station currently charges 10 cents per pound, so we're saving the district about $60 each month. To date, we have produced 10 cubic feet of compost valued at $80 on the open market. Before we can even start to think of selling compost, however, we have a lot of things to work out. So this is not part of the project we can talk much about at this point. This entire program is school-owned but student-operated. Our long-term goal is to raise enough money with this project to break even, which includes compensating students for their labor in a variety of ways. Please keep in mind that this business requires 2 hours of student labor each day, 5 days a week, year-round. The system is designed to handle 1,000 pounds of food a week. At that level, the cost of production includes the cost of pellets, estimated about $125 a month, soap, and labor costs. Currently, we have not been charging anyone for compost, and all of the students participating in this project are doing it without compensation. This is not sustainable, and we would like to discuss our business plan with you today.
ATK Action wants to partner with us, allowing us to work as a non-profit organization under their umbrella. This would allow us to get donations and help us with marketing. Special education students will continue to transport food to and from the school and process food waste once a week throughout the year to learn CDOS credits, science and math skills, and work experience. Environmental club students will continue to process the school's food waste throughout the school year and wash buckets to earn community service hours, business experience, and leadership skills. The long-term success requires project management, and our plan is to appoint 1 school employee as the project manager and 2 to 3 student interns. Each student intern would receive $2,000 annually, and the project manager will receive $1,000 for overseeing all training and maintaining operational records. We are asking the LPCSD to set aside $60 per month, which is equal to the landfill costs. Again, please keep in mind the commitment and hours required to keep this program going. As you can see, organizations and families wishing to partner with us will be expected to pay a membership fee based on the amount of organic waste they produce. Our membership fees would cover expenses, while our grants and donations would cover upgrades and maintenance. We ask that you support us by including $60 per month in next year's budget for organics waste recycling, by supporting our partnership with ATK Action, and by meeting with Alyssa in the spring to create a salt mitigation plan for the district. Thank you.
Do we ask questions?
Sure.
Do we have questions, or board members?
I have a question. What about in the summer? How's this gonna be taken care of in the summer?
Well, over break, we basically just created a schedule and divvied up the days that we would have certain people composting. We sent students in the environmental club home with compost buckets, so they would be able to include their own food waste along with Green Goddess's food waste. And we do it every 2-3 days that's when we did it over break, so basically.
So it's every 2 to 3 days, and how much time would that be?
We do it every day right now during school hours, but during breaks it would be every 2 to 3 days, and it takes about an hour to 2 hours to get everything done: washing, composting, making sure everything is clean.
So when you factor the school out, there's still enough compost coming into the machine to keep it going?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Can we hear more about the partnership with ATK Action?
Sure. ATK Action has expressed interest in this project because it really fits along with their mission. And they have a lot of farms that have food waste, and they have a farm store called Pharmacology, and the pharmacy. They really like this project, but they are a nonprofit. And so for us to be a business under them, we can't charge people for the hour for their compost, but we can create members. And so the school would be a member of the project, which is under their umbrella. We're right now working with Tom Booth, who's one of their board members, who has taken us on as his little project. So we're writing an MOU right now, trying to get all of the details worked out. The issue for them is they are a nonprofit, so they can't include every single one of these students and pay them a salary based on an hourly wage. That's not how it works. And they can't charge people by the pound because it's a nonprofit organization. So that's why we kind of came up with the organizational fee where, for this to be sustainable, we absolutely have to be able to pay them during the summer months. There's no way that we can expect students to come in on their vacations and over the summer, year round, to do this on a regular basis. And there's a lot of work. We're talking at least an hour a day to process buckets, to process the food and get it into the composter, and then an hour also in the washing of the buckets. So, and we haven't even talked about the compost piece, if we ever decided to market and sell the compost piece. That's, as Anya said, that's for another year, at the end of this year, where we can start to think about that. But if we had members giving us money and we were a not-for-profit where people could donate to the organization, then we would be able to pay 2 or 3 students about $2,000 a year, based on the amount of food we can take in and the amount that we have to pay out for wood pellets and things like that. Does that answer?
Yeah, mostly. I'm curious about you turning into your own nonprofit, because that raises questions of legacy and succession. So what happens when you all graduate and move on? Is there somebody who's going to take over that responsibility? Or is it that ATK Action is going to have you be there? Will they be your fiscal sponsor?
They are our fiscal sponsor in
Okay.
this arrangement. And that's why we have to make sure that we are fitting within that nonprofit window, and why we would have people giving us their compost participate as members, and why we'd be giving salaries that we, a scholarship instead of a salary.
Got it.
So
Thank you.
that point, that has to be all ironed out before this summer to really sustain this for a whole year.
Do you have other food establishments other than Green Goddess that have come forward or expressed interest?
We've had others that have expressed interest. We haven't, until we get all of this worked out, we haven't really encouraged too much of that. Over the break we did. But we're getting enough between, Northwood is giving us quite a bit. They're giving us about the same amount that we're producing, so they're about 2,000. If I go back to their slide, we can take much more than what we're currently taking. Right now, we've added 2,400 pounds and they've added 2,200 pounds. So we can take up to 1,000 pounds in a week to still fit under our DEC registered guidelines for being a compost facility.
Where are you gonna get the food in the summertime?
We have a lot of people that have already expressed interest that we haven't talked to. A lot of businesses, there's restaurants that want to do this. There are no other options, right? There's no other place. So you either put all of your food into the garbage and it goes to the landfill and you pay the landfill for that, or maybe you find somebody like us. And right now, we're kind of dead.
So is there like some threshold that you have to maintain in order to keep this thing working throughout, say, the summer, which seems to be the obvious downtime?
Yeah,
how much do you need to keep it, active?
We absolutely need to keep it, the bacteria fed over the summer.
Right.
And it's kind of, the amount you put in determines how much, the bacteria is in the food when it comes.
Mhm.
So as long as you're keeping enough in there to have, it can take 200 pounds a day. The optimum, like the minimum of what is probably good to keep it going is about 20 pounds a day.
Oh, wow. So not very much.
No.
Cool.
But you do kind of need,
More is better.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's much hotter.
Yeah.
We have quite a bit. The temperature today was 142, and it was because we had just added a big batch between Northwood and us and Green Goddess. It was like everybody all came all at once on Monday. So it was like, there was a big batch. And the more food, the hotter it gets, and the better it processes everything too. Because the bones and everything are coming out completely
Like
gone
what we
on
just
the
saw.
other end. Yeah, that's
Great.
Amazing.
Fantastic.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah,
Thank
great
you.
job, guys.
Thank
That's
you.
really cool.
Thank you very
Great
much.
job, everybody.
Yeah, thanks.
They're not gonna stay for you guys.
They know?
They must not know.
Impressed with the students.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Paradigm that we're like out of the business.
Yeah.
They didn't want to stay and listen to the schoolhouse.
No. What's that? Yeah, what's that?
In the long term, next year, 2, 3 years. Great.
cool. Maybe keep it this way.
All right, moving right along, superintendent's report.
Somehow I got ahead of you on this one, I'm not sure how. But, Here we go, if you listen to education stuff.
Sounds good.
Okay. So tonight I want to talk about a few things. I just want to give you a quick summary on our graduate feedback that we received before the Christmas break. Talk a little bit about where things stand at the state level with the upcoming budget, and then just a snapshot of our upcoming events and activities. So first, the graduate feedback. We had a great showing for our graduate panels right before the holiday break. That was on December 20th. In addition, with the meetings that our graduates had with juniors and seniors, our alumni provided us with additional feedback on their school experience to us. And there were 3 or 4 of us in the room. So where they were able to provide feedback to the administration and the faculty. So just a quick summary of that. And there was certainly plenty more said than I'm going to tell you, but just so you get a flavor of it. Our graduates spoke very highly of the access that they had to AP classes in high school. One student said it was incredible what, coming from a small school, they were able to do compared to the classmates that they met at college. By the way, not every student who attended the graduate panels was a current college student or a first-year college student. We had other representatives as well, students who were involved in the military, also involved in work experiences. But really, the students who did stay to talk with us, I believe every one of them were current college students, ranging in age from like 18 to 29. So in addition to the AP comments, the graduates also shared their appreciation about things like access to the New Visions program. That's the health occupations program through the BOCES at the hospital. Our small class sizes, the personal relationships that they recognize as important here, the career exploration opportunities that they were able to experience. They talked about our family-like environment, and then they were pleased, knowing how things had been in the past, they were pleased to hear about the return of the student council that I know the board heard about recently, and they did make some comments about the lunch and learns that we actually had to have tailed off somewhat, but it kind of has inspired us to think we should get back to doing our monthly lunch and learns. I believe you were a former presenter of the Lunch and Learn. Is that correct? Yeah. Some of the things that they favored, in other words, they were making recommendations to us as well. So they recommended AP Chemistry. There were a couple of students who thought that would have been a good thing to have in high school. They talked about some kind of electrical class, and they talked about giving some kind of new look to college level lab options, maybe having students take labs at the community college. They were really talking about, and we hear this a lot, about how the labs in college were significantly different than the labs they had in high school, and how we could bridge that gap. They also offered suggestions for improving things, right? They wanted to talk about improving our senior seminar, improving the senior project, and then they also expressed some caution to us of things that we are in the process of doing. They expressed some concern about moving the deadline back for the senior project to April, which we've been trying to spread out the senior project presentations over the course of months rather than have them all at the end of June. But some of them let us know that that additional time was really important for them. So this is an interesting perspective. Finally, students raise concerns, and they raise concerns about the experiences that high school students have, things they hear about, things they see, things they experience. They talked about student apathy. They talked about substance abuse. They talked about screen time and the problems that kids experience with too much screen time. They talked about how in Lake Placid, as much as they appreciate the close-knit environment, they recognize that there was a limited exposure to other schools and students. They said that too often they thought that students were tuning out in class while they were in high school, and they would like to see us work at that, finding ways to sort of engage and capture the attention of all of our kids, not just some. They said that at times they experienced too much gossip, that they encouraged us to find other ways of addressing discipline other than suspensions, and they did discuss with us at times. It's always interesting when our graduates leave and then they say we were being too easy on them. And they encourage us to be a little tougher, a little harder, set the bar high, and hold them accountable more often. And it's always good to hear our students say that. Love to hear them say that while they're in high school as well. But that was their feedback on that. So it was a very good conversation. They're a really smart, enthusiastic group of kids, our graduates. And I think it always makes me feel proud to be a part of all this, to have our graduates come back, want to be connected, want to offer their input, their advice, have so many good things to say, some of it positive, some of it really challenging. And overall, I just encourage us to continue to have this kind of opportunity that I think is really valuable for all of us. So that was the graduate feedback I wanted to share with you. In terms of the budget, as you know, I've talked about recommendations that different groups are making for the state budget. Tomorrow the governor speaks out about it. So the governor's state address is tomorrow, 1:30. And we expect that he'll provide his own recommendations now for education funding, as well as any other program proposals that he has that will impact schooling. This tends to vary over the course of time. Some years this takes up a large portion of the governor's state of the state, and some years it does not. As it is, the governor's already come out with 30-something proposals that he is including in his state of the state and his budget for next year. From what I could tell, only one of them involved education, and it was a very specific Syracuse project. So we'll see what he brings to the table tomorrow. Following his speech, what we will typically get after that is we'll get an executive proposal for funding, so we'll be able to access, and Dana will actually be able to access and to begin our budget process by seeing the executive budget proposal, very specific to Lake Placid. So we look forward to seeing that and to giving us a little bit more of a concrete idea of what state funding is going to need for our budget for next year. And then finally, looking ahead to the upcoming weeks, we had a long break, and I think people are now waking back up and coming back to school, hopefully re-energized. Our classes or extracurricular activities or other activities that they're really kicking on in full speed. You saw the environmental club, incredibly active, engaged group of students, really committed and passionate about what they're doing. We do have a number of activities that really I think operate that way, and they're back in action. So what's going on in the coming weeks? We have a full slate of winter athletic contests, and this includes home games, away games, league games, non-league games, and includes some road trips. I thought it was kind of interesting. We had some road trips over the holidays, and now we have some road trips. One's to Woods Valley, another to Old Ford, that's alpine skiing. We have girls hockey going to Canton and Messina. We have boys hockey going to Albany. We have girls JV basketball going to Chattagay. We have roller skiing going to Queensbury. So our athletic teams are not only out there competing, but they're traveling. lots of things going on with athletics. This Thursday, we have a really great intercultural experience in Kara Atkinson's French classes. We'll be hosting a duo of traditional Quebec musicians, and so that will be something for French students to experience. We also have, our juniors are starting to get prepared for their college planning process. And so starting next week, our juniors are going to have an opportunity to take an SAT prep class after school. So our juniors are already, sort of the standard protocol is our juniors would take the PSAT in October, which many did, and then an SAT in the spring. As you know, we've all been involved in trying to promote more access to the exam, and also more access to preparation for our students, just so that they have the opportunity to go on to college at the level that they want to do. So we have a SAT prep class that will be starting next week. It's going to be on Mondays and Wednesdays from 3 to 4, and it'll run to March 11th. That runs right up to the March SAT test date, which follows a few days later. So if you know of any juniors out there who are looking to get ready, this would be a great opportunity for them.
Is that in conjunction with Northwood?
It's not. We have had discussions with Northwood about this, and in fact, I think we've done this a few times. Last year, the reemergence of our SAT prep class was done in coordination, at least in planning stages, with Northwood. We have the Educational Opportunity Fund is also going to be getting back into its groove, and so next Thursday they begin their work again for this calendar year on behalf of our students. Other things that are happening, we have a policy committee meeting coming up in a couple of weeks. That's been rescheduled from this Thursday to a couple of weeks from now. We also have Martin Luther King holiday coming up on the 20th, so there'll be no school there. And then that week, the week of the 20th, that's also the final week of the first semester of school. So we're really hitting the actual midpoint for the school year. Even though this holiday break, often we see it as the midpoint, the actual midpoint, the semester break, is at the end of January. So that week will include midterm exams, Regents exams, final assignments, and then semester grades will be submitted. And then following that will be the post-semester break winter carnival celebration. So that's everything I have. Any questions or comments? Thanks.
Thank you very much. Information for the board, there's one item in this section, the NISBA Area 6 Legislative Breakfast, which is January 30th, starting at 8 o'clock at Crown Plaza. If anybody is interested, what's the deadline on that, Karen?
January 16th.
Okay, so you can put me down for it.
Me too.
I got you, thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else interested?
This is
The legislative.
Yeah, I'll go.
Last year, this was at the Hotel Saranac, but this year it's back at the Crown Plaza.
Jeff, you said yes?
Yeah, that was this one. That's the next one.
Right. And if anyone else, please get hold of Karen. Linking goals with agenda items.
Student social board,
Presentation.
And the biodigester sort of connects with technology in a way.
There's community outreach involved too, right?
Yes. For sure.
Big time, like we're totally dependent on it.
Anybody else have anything? If not, if you think of anything, please pass it on to Karen or myself. Next up is the capital project update. It's a normal time that we review the capital project update. We have 2 of 3 individuals, right, from schoolhouse construction. So
So we've heard from, Eric has visited us before,
Right.
and Paul has visited us before. This is the first time you've done this as a
team.
Look
at
it.
you.
It's pretty exciting.
yourselves.
Right with the homework, guys, yeah.
Should make him do it next time.
Well, thanks for having Paul and I this evening to provide an update. It's a pleasure to be here, and the reason why is we have very good news to share. Things have been going very well on the capital project. The past couple weeks have not been downtime for us by any means. I think there was probably 2 days off, and that was it, Christmas and New Year's. But I'll share a couple overall updates with the project, and then I'll turn it over to Paul. Well, actually, Paul, maybe if you want to pass out our progress report. So starting commencing the construction activities this fall. We started a little bit during the summer, as we know, primarily with asbestos abatement, which became an animal of itself that we're beyond, for the most part, the crawl space areas. But starting the other activities in the fall, we made respectable progress, but it was a little bit sluggish in getting contractors freed up from their other project responsibilities outside of Lake Placid, if you will. So it took some forceful nature at times, but we were able to get the contractors in gear. And really overall at this point, today we had our regular bi-weekly progress meeting with all the prime contractors present. We had a chance to tour all the respective areas in both buildings. And I'm pleased to say that at this point we're actually slightly ahead of schedule. And we also continue to be under budget as well. We're not having those the big hits with asbestos again that we've had before. So things in that realm I see Dana's smiling, of course, because we haven't had to talk to him about these types of things here recently. If we reflect back to our milestone schedule, which is the schedule that is in the specifications for the contractors, there are a couple things that are behind. For instance, one of the things we spoke about today was interior doors. And in the high school, there's about a dozen interior doors. Well, that's an item right now in the industry that has very long lead times. And it's still going to be another month or two before we have doors, actually maybe even a little bit longer than that. But it's not really holding things up. Overall, when we look at our progress, again, we're slightly ahead of schedule. The three main areas where we're significantly ahead in my perspective, first of all, is the site work. All right, so we have Luck Brothers as a site prime contractor here. They've recognized our completion schedule at the end of the summer, early fall, and they've realized, and we went through a decision factor. I think last time you were here, Paul, with the retaining walls and sticking with the natural stone facade there. But they've taken it upon themselves to continue working through the winter conditions. And of course, it's not as easy to work through the winter here in upstate New York and Lake Placid as it is other times of year, but they're being responsible and they're getting ahead. The second area that we're significantly ahead on is asbestos abatement. And part of that, I think I'd like to thank Dana and Roger for a difficult decision we made about a month and a half ago. And that's when we had some complications with the prior abatement subcontractor. And the decision was made to excuse that contractor from our project. They showed some signs of remorse, but we made a difficult decision and said, you know what, we want to move forward in a positive manner, and we've noticed a significant improvement with the new company that we have here. So during the break, we continued with a great deal of abatement in the high school. And at this point, we're nearly complete the abatement in the high school. There's a couple of spot zones, but we've cleared the majority of asbestos that's been part of the project. The third area where we have where we're significantly ahead is with the mechanical and HVAC installations. And that's a result of the abatement. because we've been able to go and remove the hazardous materials in different zones, we've stayed focused on opening up areas for the mechanical contractor to proceed with their piping installations. We're not in a position right now to be swapping out heating units, if you will, because we're in the heating system and you have a steam heating system, especially in the high school, it's just not feasible to consider doing that. However, we are able to proceed with the vast majority of the piping installations, and we've been doing that at a pretty impressive rate at this point. So that's kind of the higher picture, and again, budgetary wise, we're still very good, which is a result of what we had seen bid day with our strategy and so forth with the fall start. Paul, if you want to take over and maybe navigate through the progress report we have.
Yep, so just taking you through this, I won't run through the highlighted part, but just talk about each one of the specific items that we're working on. The elementary bathrooms were completed over the Christmas break. They were opened up, all 4 of them have been opened up to the public. There's some minor little touch-up work that needs to be done. A couple of minor little things need to be taken care of, but they are fully functional and they've been reopened to the public. The elementary loading dock was also reopened when school got back in session, so they're able to fully use that again. Again, we're missing one little section of hand railing that was never ever there, but it's deemed a safety issue for children that can come out of those doors, and if they took a quick left, they could really walk right off the loading dock. So that piece of handrail is on order, and as soon as it gets here, we'll get that put in. You'll notice on some of the pictures that the hand railing is galvanized, and that's supposed to be painted to match the color. We got to the point in that we decided that we're going to do all the painting in the spring to wind up with a much better condition. There's no reason to try and fight that now. It's certainly operational and you can use it, and so we decided to tell the contractor that they could come back in the spring and do all that touch-up, and we'll wind up with a lot better job. There are some pictures in there showing some of the mechanical piping in this building in the crawl spaces, and those guys, there's only 2 of them, and the amount of pipe they've put in that they weren't scheduled to put in until school got out, really, and they were going to be doing the removals and then install this new pipe. They're miles ahead, and we'll probably have all of the pipe work installed before school gets out. So then it's a matter of doing the pipe work in the boiler room itself, removing the old boilers, putting the new ones in, and then changing out the unit ventilators, which, and that was the biggest part of the project that I would say I was the most concerned about staying on schedule. And the foreman that they have running the crew here is a local guy, and he's a really good guy. He knows his business, and he's really going right at it to try and make sure he stays on schedule. So they're doing an exceptional job. Along those lines, we replaced all of the electrical panels, including the switchgear. There's some pictures of those new panels installed in the electric room in the elementary building. There were several days where we had power outages over the Christmas break to change out all of those panels. One of my days was a 6 a.m. day until 9 p.m. at night, and it happened to be the day that there was freezing rain here. So it was not a pleasant day. It was a long day, but those guys, again, said that, we can take on this amount of work, we get it done. They brought in a crew of about 10 guys. They tore those panels apart, got them all changed out. We're all back in, had their carpenters refinish all the walls, fix them up, so that you would never know that those panels were changed out now. They've done a really nice job with that. And because I'm an electrician by trade, I'm probably much more picky when it comes to looking at their installation than almost anybody else's, and they've done very high quality work for you there, so I'm very impressed.
It'd be good for your AP electrical course that you brought up. Good instructor.
Yeah, the high school pedestrian bridge was actually opened up was it a week before they went on vacation?
It was Thursday before vacation.
Yeah. So we did open that up, and Dr. Catania took the first trip across it, and we've since finished the caulking on the glass. Again, there's the doors aren't going to be here till probably the end of February, but the doors that were on the building with the previous bridge. There was no reason to keep it closed waiting for the doors, so we reopened it for student use. And again, there's some minor things that have to happen with the bridge, but that can all happen either during another break or it can happen after hours or whatever. There's no reason not to give that back to you. The high school classroom asbestos abatement was completed. Sullivan came in here promising me that they would be done 2 days after New Year's, so before you came back from that break, they said they'd be finished on that Friday, They wouldn't need to work that Saturday, even though we had the contingency that they could work that Saturday and Sunday, be out of here. When I talked to Bill Davis from Sullivan, he came up, walked the job with me, and he said, my guys will be done before New Year's. When they go home, they're going home. And he said, we'll probably send 2 guys back after final results to tear down the day after New Year's, and that'll be that. That's exactly what they did. They got in, they got out. They worked a couple longer days, so they worked a couple longer days so they could get out a little early on Christmas Eve, but the day after Christmas, they were right back at it. Those guys get in there, they get their work done, and they finished exactly when they told me to, which Sullivan has not disappointed me to date on any abatement project. So the last thing that we have is the high school retaining wall, and Eric talked a little bit about that. They have disrupted the neighbors a little bit when they drove all those sheet pilings in there, and maybe a few people got a few phone calls, and that's very disruptive work. I went over to the restaurant that sits across the street, and they were a little unhappy about a couple things, so I bought lunch there and appeased them a little bit, and we talked about it, and I told them that, you know, there is going to be some inconvenience if I tried to tell them that this was going to be a painless, seamless thing to put that wall in. It's not. There's going to be some give and take, and, you know, there's going to be days where we have the road closed to 1-lane traffic, and they're trying to get a tractor trailer in there for deliveries. So, you know, I told them the best they can do is communicate with our on-site foreman for Luck Brothers, and we'll do our very best to get tractor trailers and whatever they have in and out of there. And they certainly have my contact information. If there's a real problem, we'll go down, and, you know, we know they're going to try and stay open, or they're going to stay open, and we're going to do everything we can to try and make that as seamless as possible. And the neighbors I had talked to, when we were removing the trees, I had actually gone to every one of the neighbors and let them know that we were going to be blocking the road for a little bit, and I actually knocked on each door. I didn't do that when we were driving to the sheet piles, and I probably should have. It probably would have avoided maybe a couple of phone calls. So as we go to do that, as we go to inconvenience those neighbors again, I will probably make that trip back through there and just let them know what we're doing, just so that hopefully we don't wind up with quite so many phone calls. I did give them all my contact information, so if they had a problem, they could call us up. But so far, that's been going really well. So, yeah. He doesn't know, but I give him Roger's number. I give him my So that's where we are. Things are in really good shape. I'm pleased with the work that's being done by the contractors that are here. They're doing quality work, and the things that we found, they've addressed very quickly and taken care of. So
not interrupt. We had come across a couple things we haven't been pleased with, and you know, I'll mention the loading dock took a little bit longer than what we had hoped for, and part of the reason is we were not pleased with the end product of the retaining wall on the side. So we gave direction that had to be pulled out and redone. So when there are shortcuts that are looking to be made, it's certainly our position on behalf of the district to address them.
Any questions for Eric and Paul?
With regard to the bridge, what are the specs on the glass that we put in?
As far as the thicknesses
Yeah,
and so
I mean,
forth, I don't recall
it's
offhand.
bulletproof.
Yeah.
I don't recall offhand what it is. I do know it's bulletproof.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Eric, Paul, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yes.
Okay. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Safe trip to Albany.
Thank you.
You're going to Peru.
Take care.
Watch out for the deer.
Yeah. Usually 6 or 7.
Change orders, do we have any change orders? No change orders.
Going now.
Negotiations. Roger, do you want to take the lead on this?
Sure. So we're officially entering the negotiating season, and so I think it's important for us to continue to move ahead with the plan that we had in place, which was to establish a negotiating team for each collective bargaining agreement, and then to determine a time when we can meet and discuss the board's goals for negotiations. Those goals would be represented by the negotiating team. So the whole board would establish what those goals are, and negotiating team would represent the board in our negotiating sessions. So I think that, you know, the first order of business, I know we've already been talking about this, is to determine who would be on each negotiating team. The second one will be to set a date. I'm going to propose at our next meeting. Time we you know, have frank conversations about what the board's goals are for those negotiating sessions. And at that point, the teams would respond to the request by the unions to enter into negotiations, to set a calendar, and to begin those conversations. And I know we already have a couple of volunteers to be part of the teams. I guess, Rick, you and I wanted to just sort of firm up what how we wanted to go about doing that. Is that right?
So Jeff and Liam have both expressed interest in the LPEA, correct?
Yes.
And that's what we're talking about now. We don't have a letter from UFCW.
We don't, but the date for that is the 15th. So everything's contractually based, and according to the teacher and TA contract, the LPEA contract, the association requests negotiations to begin by, I believe it's January 5th or 6th. I believe this year 5th fell on a Sunday, so it was the 6th. The Civil Service Employees Association contract, I believe, is the 15th.
Mm-hmm.
So again, contractually, we'll expect a letter by the 15th, and then be able to move ahead from there.
So the preliminary conversation was they've given two dates, which is January 13th and January 22nd.
Yeah.
Was the 13th decided on because of the availability of Douglas?
He is available on the 13th. That wasn't why it was proposed. But
okay.
He is, yeah.
Do we have a time?
3:30.
3:30. So we'll get an email on that.
What's that?
We'll get an email stating the time and the place.
Yeah. So we're going to have. I'm going to suggest that we're going to have a 5-member team for the LPE negotiating.
Sure.
Okay. Good. Yes. It would be Dana.
Sure.
Jeff. Rick. Liam. And Roger.
Okay.
So then we'll send out an email to.
And Douglas will be.
And Douglas will be with you. Yes.
Great.
Okay.
So there's two different kinds of well, there's more than two different kinds, but there's two general kinds of negotiations. One is informally led, and the other is formally led, right? And it appears that we're going to be doing one of each here. That will probably have informal negotiations, at least that's my expectation, with the Civil Service Employees Association, and then formal negotiations with the Lake Placid Education Association. So that's what we're expecting. So when you have formal negotiations, that means that we'll be led by our outside counsel. So that's our attorney, Douglas Kerr.
Any questions on?
Sound like a good plan?
Yeah, sure. It's fine. Very informal at this point. So.
But so I guess we would expect an executive session starting next meeting.
Correct. And generally, we have an executive session every meeting thereafter, just to update the board on what's going on. Okay, great. Any other questions, or ready to move on? Meeting minutes were on the consent agenda. Entering into the personnel items. The first is the teaching assistant tenure recommendation. The recommended action is upon the recommendation of the superintendent, Heather Lighton. Is hereby granted tenure in the area of teaching assistant on February 18th, 2020. Ms. Lighton holds a professional teaching assistant certification. May I have a motion, please?
Yes.
Colleen? And a second? Yes. Thank you, Dan. Any questions? If not, we may vote. Yes.
No. No.
A verbal?
Still don't have it?
Yes.
Okay, 7-4-0 against, the motion passes. Second is a teaching staff retirement. Upon recommendation of the superintendent, accept the retirement of Margaret McCavendish, special education teacher at the middle and high school, effective June 30th, 2020. May I have a motion, please?
Yes.
Thank you, Jeff. Second?
Yes.
Colleen, any discussion? Should we missed?
Can I just add in? I just
Certainly.
think that these nights are really important for us to recognize the importance of our retirees. Meg McCandlish is an absolute key and vital player in our special education program. She works at middle and high school, but she's important for us. K-12, we count on her. We rely on her. She's been working here since 1998, and that's 20 years that we've benefited. Our kids have benefited from her. So again, I think every one of our retirees that we're going to mention here are people whose career here we need to celebrate. And Meg is absolutely key and vital.
Not recording it, I don't know why.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, yes.
Leah.
Oh, yes. Up in the back end, okay.
6-4-0 against. Motion passes. Next is upon recommendation of the superintendent, accept the retirement of Mary Ellen Decker, health education teacher at the middle and high school, effective June 26th, 2020. May I have a motion, please? Thank you, Dan. Second?
Yes.
Thank you, Joan. Any questions? Comments? Same?
Can I just, add in here,
Please.
we've had 2 health teachers at the middle and high school now for the past, 50 years. Steve Morgan, who was a legend and probably was a teacher of some of the people in this room, and the late Steve Morgan. And Mel Decker, who followed him, and and has established herself the way Steve did as well since 2002. So again, just when you're in a small school district and you take on this responsibility, which involves so many important and vital issues for teens and preteens, it's just we're very thankful for Mel Decker and her influence on the school district.
6-4-0 against, motion passes. Teaching assistant retirement. Upon recommendation of the superintendent, accept the retirement of Lynn Murphy, teaching assistant at the middle and high school, effective January 21st, 2020. Your motion, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Martha.
I'll second.
Thank you, Joan.
Who's the second?
Joan,
Thanks.
any discussion?
Lynn's time here has been briefer than on some of the others, but some of her contributions have been key, and one of those big ones is on the side, in addition to her TA duties, she spearheaded, and I know Mr. Wu was a part of this, the resurgence of our after-prom party. And what a key and important thing that is. I know if you're a parent of a teenager, you know how thankful you are that those kinds of experiences are out there. But Lynn, along with others, but Lynn really taking the leadership role here, really sort of brought this experience back to our kids in a top-notch way. So very thankful for all that Lynn's done for our school.
Thank you. 6-0 against, motion passes. Thank you. CSEA staff retirement. Upon recommendation of the superintendent, accept the retirement of William Vigor, head custodian at the elementary school, effective July 2nd, 2020. June 30th, 2020 will be Mr. Vigor's last day of work at Lake Placid Central School. May I have a motion, please?
Yes.
Thank you, Jeff. Second?
Yes.
Thank you, Dave. Discussion, comments, please?
Just, Bill Vigor has been taking care of the elementary school like it is his own home for 30 years. Very few people care about that building as much as Bill Vigor does, and he's made other people care about it that much too. He takes care of the building, he takes care of the people in the building, and he's been doing that at the highest level with the most compassion and commitment that I could ever imagine in a custodian. And so I'm just really grateful to all that Bill Vigor has done for that school and our school district. Thank you, Bill Vigor.
Yes. Thank you. Wish him well in retirement. 6-0 against. One more CSEA staff retirement upon recommendation of the superintendent. Accept the retirement of Lisa Vigor, typist at the middle and high school, effective July 2nd, 2020. June 30th, 2020 will be Mrs. Vigor's last day of work at the Lake Placid Central School. May I have a motion for this retirement, please? Yes. Thank you, Dave.
I'll second.
Thank you, Lee. Discussion, comments from?
So maybe another thing that Bill Vigor did is he encouraged his wife to apply for a job here 20 years ago, because she has, really been an important player here at the middle and high school. So they do work in separate school buildings. Elisa has done both the main office and then for the past 10 years or so, the school counseling office. And I can say from personal experience, she's absolutely wonderful in that role with the kids, and also with sort of the organization that's important in that office. One thing that she does that I think that she deserves a high level of credit for is she maintains all of the school district data. Now, I don't know how that sounds to other people, but people on the inside, we know that data is absolutely vital to for all of our accountability and performance records. Everything that gets posted about who we are as a school district is about the data. And Lisa Vigor took that on about 9 years ago and has been running that for us. Talk about accurate and talk about committed. Lisa Vigor has made sure that as a school district, the way we are presented to the public is an accurate presentation. So again, very, very thankful for Lisa, and I know I will miss seeing her every day.
6-4-0 against, motion passes. I'm sure that won't be the last of our retirements, but it's certainly sad to see some of these long-termers leave. So, yeah. Other action items, the donation and special education are both consent. Any questions about the January 21st packet? If not, unless Elizabeth would like to address the board.
I'm all set.
You're all set?
Okay.
Okay. So we'll go to the adjournment phase. Your next meetings are set. Seems hardly possible, but the initial budget work session is January 21st. So they're listed there. I won't read them to you. Old agenda topics. We have down sports merger. I'm not sure.
We were going to talk about that under budget times with the smaller mergers with the different school districts.
So we'll keep that on, just as a reminder. Any new agenda topic items? So we're ready. May I have a motion to adjourn, please?
You
Yes.
may.
Martha first, Liam second, how's that?
Sounds good.
Okay. I will assume that it's 6-4-0 against. And we adjourn at 7:36.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Good job.
Enjoy what is sure to be a miserable weekend.
Not too bad, 6 minutes off.
You
estimated about an hour.
Great till it's gonna
Yeah,
pour.
right.
Yeah.